a special guest today. We have Graham Pence, who's come down to the studio in person. He is a member of the band Whoa, She's a Babe, Vancouver self-described party band, would you say, Graham?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely your videos show very clearly that you get people up and dancing. This isn't morose shoegazing music by any means, and wonderful summer music, I dare say, coming into these months. Graham, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. We met actually at a Music BC function, which was relating to the music industry and about how independent artists can empower themselves. And we got chatting, and you're definitely astute around that because you've been through a fair bit already with your band, and you're definitely, I can tell, not complacent about letting other people guide the process, relying on managers too much. I guess we'll talk about that. Let's start with the band itself. How long has it been around for?
We've been a band for about 2 years. We started as, we'd all been involved in separate music projects, but this was a band that was just a couple of my friends, and we never expected it to be the one we were working on. We'd be out at the bar, and then we just decide, hey, let's go jam some songs, and we just started writing almost right away, and it was by accident. We never expected it to be, I never really thought that my friends would be the ones I was in a band with. That's sort of what you hope for, but rarely ever works out like that. Usually you're with that, you're with other musicians that are good at what they do, and that's why you're a band.
That is true. And often, it's true, you really have hit something quite significant. And when you say you never would have thought it would be come to this, already you have a music video and airplay. In 2 years for any band, that's pretty remarkable.
Well, a lot of it is just sort of, we build it one little thing at a time, and we're always a little bit surprised. We're always kind of laughing a bit because we still remember when this was just a jam band, and our friends they'd come down to our jam space to watch us play, and then they wanted to have us play at other things, and so it's strange because we we've all been involved in bands that we really tried really hard to make successful, and they weren't at all. So this is the band that we didn't, we kind of let our guard down, and then it kind of formed its own thing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And we were talking a bit off air about the idea of controlling a process, and you just gave this perfect example of music. It's still ephemeral. Like, how can you really control it, despite the machinations of an industry and managers or folks who might think otherwise? What can you comment about that in terms of doing it yourself, as opposed to relying on too much external guidance or control?
Well, I think, there's always a bit of fear that when somebody else is in control of what's happening, you're always a little bit, you're waiting for things to happen. You're waiting for someone else to make it their priority. It's very, you're always sitting in the back of the car and someone else is driving, and you want to go a certain direction, and you're like, well, turn right. And I'm like, no, I know another way, and you're just sort of, you feel a little helpless. I think, this is, the best landscape lately for just the tools are out there, the information is out there for people to learn. Our band, we definitely we take a hands-on approach to everything, and we like to learn this. We like to learn new things so that we're not a victim to them later. Every time we demystify something scary about the industry, we feel a lot more confident. We're like, oh, well, we've been there, we know what to do. Okay, let's check that off the list, and then it's a sequence of that, and then before you know it, you're just comfortable, and you can kind of go, well, I know how to make a record, I know how to do a video. Let's just repeat. Let's keep doing more and try to do it better next time.
And then it puts you in a stronger position if you do need outside support. Maybe. Do you have a manager now or not?
No, we had a manager that started out with us, and he was like the members of the band. He was our friend, and we used to jam at one of the. He owned a bar in the city, and we used to hang out there, and But I found that, really early on, it made us a little lazy. We just sort of, we kind of like, well, we just want to play our instruments, man. Like, just book our shows. And really, you can't do that early on. I think you have to appreciate what the job entails. And I think you only do that if you've had to do it yourself. And you also don't know if someone's doing a good job unless you've done it yourself.
Absolutely. So. I spoke to a guy I know who's in a fairly successful band that tours around the country, and his manager manages 7 bands. And it's like, that would be a source of anxiety for me, because I'd be wondering at any given time how much of his thinking time is devoted to what I'm doing, as opposed to 7 other bands. So
yeah, I mean, I think you should take on other team members. I think once there's so much going on with what you're doing that you really need someone else to do it, otherwise it doesn't get done. When you're just starting out, it's there's a lot to do online, there's a lot to do with music and writing, but I think you can still handle a lot of the local shows, promotion and booking and that kind of stuff. Once you start having a bunch of planes landing, that's when you need an air traffic controller. Yeah, exactly. To coordinate it all.
Have you toured yet? Or?
Yeah, we've done some tours just around BC, as far up as Prince George, and we play in Kelowna quite often, and Whistler and Sun Peaks, shows like that. We're planning our first West Coast tour with this band, just down to Phoenix and back.
Okay.
You can do that in about 10 days, which is cool.
Okay.
But, it takes about a few months ahead of time just to sort it all out, so.
And in terms of, listeners, you would have heard me a little bit earlier on the show speaking with the gentleman from Public Records, Dan and Tony, who have this great initiative around a music video, helping to fund a music video. Graham, I know that you guys have a music video for your song Down Below, and it was a bit of a changing moment for you because it got picked up fairly quickly for Much Music. How did that process come about for you, the music video?
Well, we were trying to capture like a live show on video, and either the sound was really bad, or we were rushing, or we were drunk and we played really bad, or the video was off. So we tried a couple times to capture just what our live show looked like, and failed miserably. So we thought, well, let's do a really, really low quality video, and that's just us playing, and that's what we, not even a real music video, but just like, okay, this is what the band looks like when they play their instruments.
Yeah.
Well, let's try to get other shows, we'll show people what we look like on stage, and we just we rented out this gallery, and a couple of our friends were liquor sponsors, and they gave us a bunch of booze, and we invited, everyone we knew that would come on a Saturday morning, and we just had a party, and it turned into this really fun day party. And then our director Aaron Veal, he's from Assembly Productions, and he's got a lot of the experience of doing videos and all that. And he just shot everything, and then we edited it for about 3 weeks, and a lot of his production people had worked with Much Music before, and they suggested that we send it on, which I thought was not, it was not in our mind. It was like we just wanted something for ourselves.
Yeah,
a YouTube video to blast in our pages, and and they added it to Much Loud, and it's got about 200 spins. Now, it was a couple months ago, which is cool, and it was featured on the Much site and things like that. So that really encouraged. That was a no budget video. We just thought, well, okay, now let's try to do something a little bit more extensive, and but it also, I think it really comes down to just when you really want to do something, when you really want to work hard at it, it doesn't matter how much money you put into it, because you can work on it for a long time and refine something, if you really put that work in, I think. We'll try to do that. We'll try to do that every time. I don't know.
Yeah,
what'll happen, but.
And this is CiTR Radio and Stranded, and you're listening to an interview I recorded with Graham Pence, guitarist from Whoa, She's a Babe. They're a local band from Vancouver, and you just heard another track from them. Let's get back into the second part of the interview. This is Graham Pence, guitarist from Whoa, She's a Babe, and he's got a lot to say about what it means to be an independent artist and to really stick to your guns and do what works for you. And it's really cool. I just quite find it refreshing your sound too. Straight ahead rock and roll, and you're in this world right now of overproduced, a lot of synths out there, and you're probably not looking to change your sound anytime soon. You're on a good thing.
It's funny because it's like I've got an electronic project, and I've been in different groups where it's very heavy laden with all sorts of like eccentric computer sounds, and I think this was this band in a lot of ways was like a cleansing for us, where we were unsuccessful in all these other types of music, and we threw away all that kind of stuff, and we just stripped down and said, okay, let's just get back to the basics. What's the first music we ever wanted to play when we were kids? Why? I put away all of my guitar pedals except for one. I just wanted to simplify it.
AC/DC.
Yeah,
I was just researching Angus and Malcolm.
Plug straight into stuff.
Yeah.
I plug in through just an overdrive pedal into my Fender Twin, so it's a fairly straight ahead rock sound, but it's sort of like playing touch football in the backyard or something, or you're not doing it for any reason. That's really what our band is about. I think we'll try to keep that as long as we can. Meat and potatoes.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, interesting timing, because I've just been developing this new fascination for AC/DC, like the great band from my country, and learning the riffs at home, and thinking, this is great. I went to see Sigur Rós the other day. And it was like wonderful and transcendent, and so foreign and amazing. And then I went home and I was like, you know what? I still need the bottom end of AC/DC to feel it in my body. It's like meeting in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like you'll always need that.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's great about music right now is that we have. I mean, I like all that kind of music. I still like electronic music. It's just I think I like to play this. I think I get a lot more out of my system when I play really loud rock and roll. I think there's something about it where I can be way more loose on stage. I can half cut and there's a sort of wildness about a distorted guitar that even your mistakes sound like they're supposed to be like that. So I enjoy that a lot. But yeah, I mean, Sigur Rós, like, Deer Lake. Did it rain?
It did.
It was raining that day.
It rained, but I was thinking, well, hang on, isn't this probably what it's like in Iceland all the time? Like gloomy and overcast and cold.
There's a volcano somewhere.
Yeah, so bring it on, I don't mind. It's just, exactly, the variety out there is wonderful, but, I totally understand what you're saying, and it seems like, for me anyway, me just being a beginner at home, I feel embodied when I'm playing these basic power chords and feeling it's a tangible feeling in the body that's really cool when I'm playing some AC/DC riffs.
I mean, I think the kids too. I mean, we didn't have Guitar Hero growing up, but these kids, like all the soundtrack to Guitar Hero and Garage Band and all that kind of stuff, rock band, they're all riff rock like that. So those kids that are 16, 17 are all playing in bands that cite Nirvana and AC/DC and Alice in Chains as influences, and that's interesting. I think the next generation of bands are going to be very influenced by that, I think.
Which is straight. So what you're saying is influenced by them through the computer games, not necessarily through the...
they spend a lot of time. They spend more time probably playing those games than they do listening to radio.
That's so fascinating. I think you're probably completely right there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when, what was it, Tony Hawk came out, and the soundtrack to Tony Hawk was just, it was on cycle, and you played for hours and hours and hours, and you knew all those songs to death. And I think the same thing happens with video games and kids now, where it's like, that's the music that they hear all day. Yeah.
again, going back to when we met at this Music BC function about the music industry, is there anything you wanted to add? We spoke about, well, this is all well and good, but there's so much uncovered in just an hour. Is there even a couple of things you might want to add about what, anything you think might be helpful for other artists, bands, maybe 2 years behind where you are at, starting out, things like that?
I think the best advice I could give, I'm learning things new every day. That's why I go to the seminars, because they're great. And, I think the key is, keep an open mind, because there's, no matter who you encounter, they know something that you don't. And if you keep an open mind, you'll learn that, and it will, demystify things and help you feel more comfortable. I think that, the best advice I could say is, ask a lot of questions. Politely, and just email when there's contacts, email them and just say, hey, I've heard these things about this royalty. I'm really new to this. Can you shed some light on it? And people are really, they really respond to that. I think they want to tell people. They don't always have the time, but they definitely will respond, and they'll say, well, here's how it works. Yeah, glad you asked. Here you go. And then, you keep in that habit, and you keep asking questions from people in the know, and eventually people start asking you questions.
Exactly, as I'm doing today.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so it's, and you pass it on, and I think, there's so much to learn about music alone, and then the music industry is an entirely different thing to learn. So it's never something you just one day wake up and have a grip on. I think it's a lifelong process, and you just stay engaged in it, and that's what I'm trying to do that every day.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Yeah, and be grounded in it, but still have fun. And it sounds like at this stage you guys have found that balance, because you're definitely a band that people can go and have fun with. It seems pretty clear.
Well, we definitely try that. We have fun up on stage.
Yeah.
Usually, if we have a good time, then hopefully that sheds to that passes on to the crowd. I don't know. We'll see.
And in terms of the music, you've dropped in an EP here. So this is a self-titled debut. Is it?
That's our debut.
Yep.
We put it out last July. And we have another one coming out in the fall, but this is that's the one that has our single in.
Are there any bands that you are in a world that you are part of?
There's some rock revival bands. That's the media term right now. Japan Droids, I guess, they've been doing that sound for a while, but there's a lot more bands that are coming out with that. Celebration rock, right? That's the name of their album. So it's, bands like that we really like locally. There's a band called Cobra Ramon that is, it's similar to what we like. It's stripped down rock and roll, classic influenced, and those shows are just the kind of shows we have fun. Instead of, we go to a lot of shows, and we instead of just standing in the back with our arms crossed and going, this sucks, we go to shows where we can have a good time. So really, rock and roll is one of those bands, that music right now, that we just have a lot of fun participating in. It sounds kind of lame, but that's the shows that we go, we'll go to that. That'll be a rad night.
Smile, girl, I should be thanking you. No wrong to be the fool. Goodbye, stay high. You're all alone again. Come to the bitter end. Another drink for Tara Lynn, and watch the case again. Another drink for Tara Lynn, and watch the case again. Another drink for Tara Lynn, and watch the case again. Another drink for Tara Lynn, and watch the case again. Begin again.
We're back